that contractor, was that just during or after COVID, or are they continuing?
No, it was just to get them caught up. I think it was 2020 and 2021, they didn't get their minimum field reviews done.
Okay.
So this person can look it all up if it's available on the GIS mapping data.
Okay.
But again, I would have thought we would have got billed the full 3,300,
Right.
so that was a question on that. Any other questions on the assessor? Okay, moving on to Board of Review. So this one's pretty basic. We have 3 regular members and now we have an alternate member. They meet in July and in December and they get $60 a meeting for those. And then they also have a March organizational meeting where they get $60. And then for the appeals hearings where they have to be here a minimum of 6 hours, I think, a day, they get $120 a day. So the way the math worked out, that's the figure there, the $1,350 plus. If the alternate, it would be nice if they came to the July, December, and the March organizational meeting because that way they know what's going on. I would say pay them $30 a meeting for that. So that's worked into the $1,350. I should note. And then there's a mileage budget and schooling and training. I would like to get all of them. MTA books. I had bought one for myself of my own money. They're $44 each, and it's the Board of Review Assessing Guide, and it's just a nice kind of 3-ring binder. So I factor that into the schooling and the training for that. Any questions on the Board of Review budget? Okay. Moving on to elections, which again, I was hoping Todd would be here because we really overestimated election costs last year in the budget. And I don't know if it was just didn't know with that new proposal that came out, but I mean, we had budgeted wages of $15,000, and right now, is that number right? Right now we have roughly $2,000. That was what we paid in wages for February.
I don't know if this had anything to do with that high number. Is that when possibly they were talking about everybody had to be open for 9 days prior to election? And
maybe that's what
so
he was thinking.
They're figuring high, but
that could have
then
been.
it all went to the counties. We didn't have to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's probably one of the factors that went in there. I just want to check that wage number. So yeah, that is correct. For the workers, election workers, just shy of 2,000. Supplies, there's so on that. I kind of just bumped that up a little bit. There was no mileage. The printing was minimal cost for that, and then the postage, there wasn't anything booked to postage, which I wanted to ask Todd about that. I guess I would have thought there'd have been something, but maybe he put it to his clerk's budget, I don't know. But it makes it hard to try to budget when you don't know what the cost was. So I cut it in half. It was $4,000 was budgeted for postage. I put it at $2,000, but that probably is overestimated, I'm guessing. So anyway, total budget for last year was $23,000, and I have it at $11,000 because we're gonna have 2 elections, I believe, in this coming fiscal year, right? We're gonna have August and November. I don't think there will be a May election, but
you never know.
yeah,
Right.
So anyway, I guess I'd like to ask him. I'm gonna put 2 elections on the wages and just get his thoughts on that. One of the main supply costs too is this Heart Civic, which is the equipment software provider for the tabulators. So, any questions on the election budget? Again, I would like to get Todd's thoughts on it. Oh, actually, I did have one thing. I think we should bump up the hourly rate for the election workers. So we pay them $12 an hour. I think we should bump that to 15. And the chairman gets $14 an hour, I think we should bump that up to 17. Any thoughts on that?
I agree.
I mean, it's worth all that, for sure. Moving on to the clerk's budget, so same thing on the wages, took the base wage, added that $3,200 in. So, same salary as the treasurer, $21,122. Left the deputy wages, supplies, they came in pretty close. I left, the rental at, he's got 4 months left, $150 a month, so I left that. And equipment in case there's any, QuickBooks maintenance or help that's needed IT wise.
The, back for the assessors, we had some school and training, maybe for the clerk and probably the treasurer, if you're gonna have new clerks and treasurers, I don't know if you wanna budget some training in there also.
We have a training line, but it's in Township board, so, so we have $1,500 budgeted to that.
Okay.
Now, we almost used all of that this year. Marcy and I both couple different conferences, so I'm gonna put a star next to that when we get to it.
Okay.
But that's a good point. Okay, so when you total up all those cost centers for the mandated services, we're just shy of 115,000, and then the revenue that would pay for that would be our township tax, the admin fee, the whatever delinquent fee, and the PPT reimbursements, roughly about 125,000. So it says showing a surplus, but in theory, there's probably other things that could be allocated to that. I just wanted to, bring that up because it's not like we're charging too much tax, because we could allocate the FICA, employer FICA, overhead, legal, so I just wanted to make that point. So moving on, so we take that surplus, and that's gonna carry over eventually into our next grouping of cost centers. And got quite a few on here, this is several pages, but we'll start with supervisor. So wage is $7,800, add to it the $2,500 that has normally been paid out as a bonus, so $10,300 for the supervisor. And I do not want any kind of pay raise, so that can be skipped. So total with the little supplies and mileage, I didn't use any of that this year, so total cost center $10,500 for supervisor. Any questions on that? Okay, moving on to the community center. So this was another one. We had some over budgeting on. Street lights, left that alone. Wages, that we might need to consider. I know a few people that have asked about potentially cleaning here, and we have budgeted 1,000, but I guess we'd have to give that some more thought if somebody wants to do it. Right now, Dutch and I have just been kind of keeping an eye on things as people are renting, and carpets probably need to be cleaned also, I would think. It's probably been a while.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years.
Yeah, the supplies budget, I took that down because we had estimated 3,200, we spent roughly about $700, so I took it down to 1,500. That is for the paper products, miscellaneous cleaning stuff. Yeah, pretty much what goes in there. And then utilities, I bumped that up to 7,500. The center contract, that's where I had estimated the carpet cleaning, $800. And then the equipment line, I left that actually, I would like to look into buying a projector so that we could have this up on a screen, in the future. So that was one item I thought potentially in the community center cost center.
I see it was budgeted for 4, I know we weeded out a lot of those bad tables, I didn't know if we need to gradually replace some of these tables, or you can see they're pretty, I don't know. We only spent $887, that's pretty low, I don't know if we've really updated anything in here, so I didn't know if 1,000 was a little low, if you wanted to do that.
Do you
I
have
don't know, it
a
might be.
suggestion of rough, what you think, how much these tables would?
$100 a piece, no, I don't know, maybe 1,500, what do you think?
Bumping it up to 1,500?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, plus 500 there.
yeah.
Okay. For tables. Okay. Anything else for community center? You know, I know we talked about that circuit overload, happened to somebody here a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's worth having an electrician take a look at it.
I think we should.
Yeah.
I know how discouraging that is when I've rented places and that's happened. Well, for the boosters banquet every year, I have that issue over at the Pepper Road, the 4-H. So
Maybe-
it probably would be.
Yeah. That's all right, maybe between now and then we could have somebody look at it, and then
Yeah.
between now and June 17th.
I'd be happy
like,
to
You wanna,
check into that.
Okay.
Yep.
anything else on the center? Move on.
I'd also be happy to do the carpets too. Get
You
a
wanna
couple
get it-
different estimates for
Okay.
carpet.
That would be awesome, thank you.
I'll send you
Are you
information.
good, are you good with just 2 estimates for both projects?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to do more than
I
that?
think that's fine.
2? Okay.
I'll send you the information from the last time we had it quoted, and we did it last time, so you
Okay.
can check them and check somebody else.
Alright,
Okay.
sounds good.
Is $800 in the ballpark for cleaning?
It wasn't about, I don't remember how much we paid for carpets clean, it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
It was $600 or something.
And they did the whole
Carpet clean.
building, the
All the
offices
carpet.
too?
No, not the
Not the office?
office there.
Okay, so just the main area
Yeah.
in here.
I'll look at that, okay, I'll send that to you.
Yeah, I think probably 800, Brandy, is
Yeah.
probably
Okay.
about right.
All right, moving on to cemetery. So we had mentioned at our last meeting that our cemetery sexton, Brian had asked for a $75 increase in pay. He makes $8,100 a year. That would bump him up to $9,000. And I will say, I was at the Memorial Day service, and the cemetery looked amazing. And he does a really great job. I know there was some chatter about it not being mowed, but at the end of the day, no,
There was a chatter for a lot of the townships and village too. Was reading, so.
it looked phenomenal.
Yeah,
So
yes,
I'm in
I agree
favor
with you there.
of that.
I think that
Everybody's good with that?
Yeah.
Cemetery utilities, I bumped that up a little. Supplies, I took that down a little bit. We budgeted 4,000, spent 2,100. I bumped it down to 3,000, and that is primarily dirt and sand. We're also gonna have, Missy at the village is working on digitizing or getting an Excel plotting out the cemetery. That's $500. So, yeah, I guess if we run into a situation, again, if we do run into a situation in the future where think we're gonna overspend, we can always amend the budget, I guess is what I'm saying, so if we don't think that's enough. And then the cemetery contract, that is for the porta-john or dumpster. One of them's in utilities and one of them's in contract, but. And then equipment, I think 1,500 is budgeted, spent 886 on a well repair, pipe repair, so I left it at 1,500, but. I talked to Brian on, that was one thing, he did have a pipe that was leaking, before Memorial Day, he got it fixed, he had to run to Camp Wells, and it wasn't a hard fix, but, he did say that the well is in good shape, which, you think of, I guess think of this as a community center too, when you think of the big items. You know, at the cemetery, it's pretty much the well, and piping out there. That would be the, you know, if it was a big item to go, that we have to shell out some money for. And then here at the center, you would think, well, the roof, well, that was just redone recently. I don't know about the HVAC system, does anybody know how old that is? I don't know, might be worth having somebody inspect that, as well, just to, you wanna add that to your list? Yeah, I mean, I guess just building wise, the carpet's fairly new, needs a cleaning. I know we'll talk about the office.
Yes.
You know, pretty shortly, so. Anything else on cemetery? Moving on to planning and zoning, so we had a lot more spending, which we expected. We actually came in a little under, budget. We had roughly about 32,000 we were budgeted for planning and zoning, and we came in at about 29,000, and the bulk of that was the master plan, which was a $21,500 contract, and we spent some of that last year, and then we have the balance that we paid this year. That's the very last item, if you're looking for it. And I haven't talked to them yet, but I did go through all of the folders to find all the invoices, and it does look like we missed paying some invoices. I don't know if you recall, that was brought up previously, so I think we owe them I'm still gonna talk to her, but it looks like, I don't know if it was bills getting crossed in the mail, because there would be one that said, you know, here's the billing, but you had a previous balance, and then only the previous balance got paid, so it was a lot of confusion on that. So that's that $17,415, that includes those bills that they say they owe us on. So, but I'm still gonna call her and kind of iron that out. Zoning administrator wages stay the same, 7,200. Planning commission wages, so the chairperson and the secretary are supposed to get $75. We have somebody who's not on the commission take the minutes, so she gets 25 of that 75, and the other members all get 50. And then I was just being conservative, saying they meet every other month, but they could have special meetings. I know they're working on some things right now, so I said 8 meetings. And then that includes Dave Kelsey also for attending, so that's where the 2,800 figure is working out to. And then zoning board of appeals, same things, chairperson and secretary is supposed to get 75. We have somebody taking the minutes for the members, and they get the $25. So, and we have an alternate member as well on that, and I just factored it in that they would be at meetings. So anyhow, that is where I said conservative 4 meetings. I know they're trying to have a couple regular meetings, and if we have any special hearings as well, so I just threw 4 in there. That's where the 1,000 is working out to. A little bit of supplies, they don't usually, just zoning books, when we have to make those, and I guess if there's postage that Dave Kelsey may need to turn in a reimbursement for, left a little in the supplies. I took out the travel, left the mileage, because we did it on everybody else, and then the printing and advertising, I bumped that up to 1,500, because when you adopt ordinances, there's a lot of things that go in the paper, big things that go in the paper, so I left that. Now I guess I was gonna try to summarize a comparison of cost. What do you guys think about the newspaper? We're doing 2 newspapers right now. We had kind of made that decision last year. We had some people that really wanted us to switch to the Daily News, but we were hesitant to switch from Lakeview. Kind of going through a cycle of that, and with the zoning changes and the board of review has to be in their 3 separate, editions, 3 times. The budget notices, everything is double, and it's kind of a chunk of change. And, I will say the Daily News is very convenient because it's a daily publication. Like there was some times this year, Dave, you can remember, we weren't able to get something in the paper because we missed the deadline and we only had 1 shot in the Lakeview paper. The other thing too, we're supposed to have a newspaper of record. Our election notices are lumped in with the county, from what I can gather, and those are going in the Daily News. So those aren't even going in the Lakeview paper because it's, I guess, the county is taking care of it. So, I go back and forth. I think an option could be, if we talked to the Lakeview paper, maybe we could, when we have a notice, putting it in like their classifieds and like directing them to our website where the full notice could be viewed. And we could still use them if we were classified, looking for a position or something, but these big notices, a notice of adoption, that's that long.
Right.
That's a lot of money to put it in 2 newspapers. So I guess that was an option.
Oh, that's a good idea. Then the information's still there.
Yeah.
If they
Okay.
wanna look it up.
I'll put a little star next to that. And maybe I can talk to Jake and just get his thoughts and it seems like we're kind of throwing money away a little bit, so. Schooling and education for the planning commission, I left that, so we had budgeted $1,500, hoping there would be some interest in maybe taking some classes. We didn't really, I'm not sure what the little $120 is. Oh, not sure what that was actually. But anyways, we only had $120, so I still would like to leave it at the $1,500, and I would like to, again, the MTA books, there's a really good one, a nice little, not too huge book, but it's a nice little guide. That is $39, I think, for that. So I would like to see if members would want one. I think it would be good. Talks a lot about process, public hearing, getting things in the newspaper. I had bought that for myself a while ago, and it's invaluable. So I would like to see if they're interested, so. And then the master plan, we would not have that. That doesn't have to be updated for another 5 years, and even then it would not be that cost of the whole overhaul that we did, so. So any questions on planning and zoning? We got this other little category called other functions, and I'm not sure why we can't move it to township boards, but I just left it alone. But for whatever reason, we put our insurance cost in there, and we budgeted $8,000. We're about at $7,600. That's our policy through the PAR plan, which is our general liability, and several other coverages, and then workers' comp is about $800. And but if you recall, when we approved the payment of the PAR plan policy, they had said we were on year 3 of a contract rate and that expected to go up. So I was conservative. I think I'm being conservative when I bump it up to $10,000 total for insurance for next year. And maybe maybe we need to get quotes when that, I think that comes due end of the year, was it? Anyway, but we might need to, I don't know, we'll see what they come in at. But. And then the other is the village DDA, which we're part of that, and we get charged once a year on certain parcels, I believe. And we were a little under budget on that. It was budgeted $3,000. The billing was actually around $3,500. So I bumped it up to $4,000 to be conservative. But frankly, I would like to research that a little bit more and kind of understand how that's determined, because I'm not super familiar with it. Any questions on the other functions category? All right, moving on to the big one, the township board, which is kind of a catch-all. Wages trustee, similar to what we did for the other offices. So trustees make $140 a month, and the annual deferred bonus, deferred pension, whatever you wanna call it, is $1,400 to each trustee. So when you work all that out, let me just get the individual. Close this, divide by 2, close this plus 1,400. Trustees make about $3,080 annually. Double that, that's where the $6,160 comes from. The FICA is our Social Security and Medicare, the employer portion, which that's just a factor of all of the wages. One thing I'm working on with Blaine is any board member or anybody who's considered an employee, so we have the 5 board members, the 2 assessors, and Dave Kelsey, the zoning administrator. Any extra stuff they do from the township, for the township, should be run through payroll. So like planning commission, you and Dave, Kelsey, election stuff, that really needs to be run through payroll. And right now it's just being written as a vendor check, so that's probably something we'll be working with her on. And I think I factored that into my FICA calc, but board supplies, we got mainly charges from Staples for ink and office supplies. In there, I bumped it down a little bit. It was $4,500, we spent $2,500, so I did $2,700. Auditor was $4,000 last year. I'm sure the fee will go up. I bumped it to $4,200, but I'm not sure exactly on that. Legal budgeted $10,000. We're at projected about $8,200. Accounting fees. So Blaine is projected to come in. We've been working really hard and efficiently on her proposal, and we approved $5,200. We think she's going to come in at $2,700-ish to complete the work on her proposal. I would like, given all of the things we've noticed and the complexities with payroll, even small payrolls and things in QuickBooks, I would like to budget some monthly hours for her to come in, and whether it's she makes sure that the FICA employer taxes are paid, she makes sure that the bank reconciliation is completed, make sure things are coded properly to the right expense accounts. So the $2,400 that I've budgeted here is roughly 3 hours a month, so $36 hours at a rate of 65. It was $2,340. I bumped that up to $2,400. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
That was probably a good idea, especially if you're getting a new treasurer, new clerk. I think it'll be really helpful. I mean, if you're not, if you're not a payroll accountant, if you're not an accountant,
right?
Yeah,
it is hard, and I think we need that support. I really do. Travel, I left that alone. Marcy and I did each stay at a hotel, and when we went to conferences. I left the mileage alone. Printing and advertising, I bumped that down. We had budgeted $2,000, came out at about $1,000. I put it at $1,200 because I moved more of it down to planning and zoning. I thought it was important to keep those separate.
One question, Brianna, on travel. I did see that MTA meeting, they moved it into April. I think next year I seen they moved it back a month, and it's at the DeVos Hall.
Oh, really?
Instead of Greater Traverse City, so that's the only I thought that might be more appealing than, you could at least drive home at night then, or.
Yeah.
That's the only thought that might go.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I just leaving it at 500.
Yep.
Contingency, that's kind of a safety net, if we have an unexpected expenditure, left that alone. The miscellaneous, we had it at 1,500 and we had a $32 charge in there, so I bumped that down to 500, we don't need that much in miscellaneous. Dues and memberships, that's mainly, MTA, and then I think we charge, we get charged from the local chapter, which, by the way, I do have a meeting notice for that. We're gonna RSVP if anybody wants to go for this next one. Schooling and education. Okay, here's where I had left it at, so we had, 1,500 budgeted, we came in at 1,400. And for a new clerk, new treasurer.
I think we gotta bump that up. Especially because I would believe that they, I was in last year, I
Yeah.
wanted education. I wanted to go to these, and I would assume they would too.
Yeah, I mean, because. Find it. No, there's that. Bear with me. I just was curious, because we pretty much went through that budget on just 2 people. I'm not missing something.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah. Board supplies, legal fees. Okay, here it is.
They offered that class like last October and
Yeah,
it was,
so like we both went to the respective elected offices conference, that was 730 total. And then we went to the one up in Cadillac on assessing. Yeah, so maybe we make it 2,500?
I think that's a good idea.
And again, if something comes up, we can always amend or move a line item around, with board approval. Equipment purchase, so we had budgeted 7,600 and some change, that was for, mainly for our, new computers. So I brought that down, this year, can't really think of any, office equipment purchase, but I left it at 1,500 just in case. And then I added a new line item, which I'm gonna have to have Blaine, get the correct